Well, welcome back. Reports of anti-Semitism have soared in both the UK and the US, and indeed around the world since the Israel-Hamas war began. Many pro-Palestine supporters, however, believe that criticism of Israel is being censored by the claims of hate speech. Last night, Israeli President Isaac Herzog told me that a pro-Palestine march planned on the UK's Armistice Day should be banned. So are claims of anti-Semitism and Islamophobia being used to stifle legitimate criticism and indeed free speech, or rather tensions on our streets in real danger of boiling over? Well, here to debate all this is the founder of the End Jew Hatred movement, Brooke Goldstein, the host of System Update, Glenn Greenwald, and the author of Go Back to Where You Come From, commentator Wajahat Ali. Welcome to all of you. Let me start with you, Brooke. I want to read you what you tweeted me recently, because I think this will set the tone for this debate. You said, "Piers, I've been on the show. I know you to be a fair journalist, but I don't understand why you're giving these Islamo-Nazis such a large platform over and over again to spread their venom. There comes a point when you have heard their message and you've done your duty. Would you likewise host every single member of the SS in Nazi Germany for the sake of debunking? I hate to say you're not doing a good job at it. Their lies and propaganda are so carefully crafted that the more you put Hamas apologists on, the more effective they become. Asking people to debate them, to debate how many babies were killed, whether it's by beheading or by stabbing or by burning babies alive, is tasteless and disgraces the memory of the innocent Jewish people who've been killed. At what point does your journalism become a propaganda tool for terrorism? They send their best and brightest to you to engage in mental masturbation, acrobatics, and they're running circles around you. With all due respect, enough. In the battle between good and evil, there is no journalistic obligation to continue to put evil on a platform to be debated." So, I mean, that seems to me a pretty strong way to start this debate, because what you seem to be saying is that so long as I have pro-Israeli voices, that's fine. As long as I have a lot of people like you who just have one view of this, then I'm a fair journalist. But the moment I stray into people who are pro-Palestinian in a very passionate manner, then somehow I'm failing in my journalistic duty. And I would say that that right there is part of the problem, Brooke, because I have tried to turn this show into a genuinely fair platform for all sides, all arguments, all voices. And I think we've been getting the audiences that reflects, which is people like it. They like to hear both sides. Why don't you?
So, Piers, thank you for bringing up that tweet. First, I want to say that's not what I'm saying at all. There's pro-Palestinian, there's pro-Israel, but you've been having pro-Hamas people on your platform, and you're giving them an opportunity to spew their virulent anti-Semitism and their propaganda that justifies Hamas terrorism. It's one thing to debate issues of geopolitics and national...
Brooke, can you name one?
Right in front of me, I can't. I was replying to something that
well, just name
you
one.
Had someone on that I was
Name
replying.
one guest I've had in a month.
You know, I don't have the names on me right now, but I can name someone who is on right now.
With all due respect,
Brooke,
with all respect, you tweeted this lengthy attack on me and my journalistic rigor and
so I
fairness,
will talk about
and
it.
I'm simply
Let's
asking
talk
you
about,
if you're going to do
the
Brooke,
people you have on right now.
Hang on, Brooke. Hang on. If you're going to do that, I don't think it's unreasonable to say who. Which of my pro-Palestinian guests expressed support for Hamas? Because I must have missed that.
Wajahat Ali, who is on the show right now with us, for example, has deep connections to the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood is the mother of all terrorist organizations. It spawned Hamas, a designated terrorist group, which is currently killing both Gazan and Israeli civilians. Wajahat Ali, who is on the platform with me right now, and your audience needs to know this, sat on the board of the Muslim Student Association, which is widely known to be a Muslim Brotherhood entity. He also has writings that are cross-posted on the English language website of the Muslim Brotherhood. He has cross-posted authors who call for the eradication of the Jewish state. He's a leading writer at CAP, the Center for American Progress, which also has ties to the Muslim Brotherhood. He has criticized cracking down on the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. And of course, he just published published an article saying that he's against Hamas because it's politically
Brooke,
but he is connected to the Muslim Brotherhood. That's who you have on your show right now.
Before I go to him, you've just said he'd just written a piece condemning Hamas. So you kind of kill your own argument. Let me go to Wajahat.
Well, he's sucking and blowing at the same time.
Okay, let me go to the man you've just been. Let me go to Wajahat.
That they are using right now.
Let me go to the man you've been accusing. Wajahat, what do you say to that?
Well, first of all, excellent pronunciation of my name, Brooke. Thank you. Also, it's pretty amazing that for a human rights lawyer, you really don't seem to care much about human beings who happen to be Palestinians or Muslim or Arab. It's like a fireman who's actually an arsonist, but thank you.
I risked my life to make a movie about Arab children. I risked my life to make a movie about Arab children and was given an award by the United Nations for my advocacy work for Palestinian children.
Let him answer.
So good job on doing your research.
Let him answer you, please.
You are the hero and you are the victim. But let me say the following. Let me say that the person who accused me of being the Muslim Brotherhood and the person who's accused us, anyone who's pro-Palestinian, of being a Nazi, which is, by the way, what Brian Mast said, a Republican. He said there's no such thing as Palestinian civilians because they're just like Nazis, right? But anyway, let me say this, because Piers, I've seen your show. I appreciate
Brooke, can you let Wajahat speak, please?
Do you condemn the Muslim Brotherhood?
Let me say this. I'm going to go a step forward. Look at this. This is what I'm going to do, because I've seen people with my melanin on Piers' show. I've proactively been asked to condemn Hamas. I condemn Hamas. I condemn Hezbollah. I condemn Islamic Jihad. I condemn Muslim Brotherhood. I condemn chocolate hummus. I condemn anti-Semitism. I condemn Islamophobia. I condemn white supremacy. I also condemn Israel's occupation. I condemn settler violence against Palestinians that have killed over 100 people on the West Bank. I condemn Netanyahu using dehumanizing language that you use, such as calling every Palestinian Amalek. I condemn the heritage minister saying that he wants to drop a nuke on Gaza. I have condemned all of that. Do you, Brooke, join me in condemning everything that I have condemned? Because I think as a human rights lawyer, anyone who cares about humanity, they should condemn everything that I have condemned. Brooke,
100%.
Do you condemn?
So why, if you condemn the Muslim Brotherhood, are you publishing with the Center for American Progress, which is strong ties to the Muslim Brotherhood? And why do you allow your papers to be cross-posted on Muslim Brotherhood websites? Why have you denied Jewish indigeneity to Judea?
Okay,
why
you know what, Brooke, I'm going to get it. I'm going to jump in here. I'm going to jump in here because we're straying. You keep mentioning.
And you say these things on television, Brooke, but you write the exact opposite
Brooke,
in your writing.
I'm going to jump in and come to Glenn. He's been waiting very patiently as you guys have been going at it. Glenn, in a way, this kind of is reflective of the debate I thought we should be having, because it seems to me that a lot of people are simply not prepared to tolerate other views. Generally, in society, we've got to a place where people get cancelled if they don't toe the line, don't have the opinion that a certain group of people have decided is the only opinion that's allowed. How have we got there? How has it been through this war? I mean, to me, watching Twitter, X as it now is in this war, is like this terrible assault on the brain. It's just people screaming in a self-righteous, often fake news-oriented way, trying to scream their opponents into submission. Where has honest democratic debate gone? What do we do about this?
Yeah, I think you're right that, Brooke, your first guest, is a perfect reflection of what has gone so wrong with this discourse ever since October 7th. She did two things that has been really pathological in terms of how we're trying to conduct discourse about a very serious issue. Number one, she equates every person who criticizes Israel or who defends the Palestinian cause of being an Islamic Nazi or somehow being associated with terrorists, as she did with Wajahat, with whom I have a lot of differences, but he has never done anything like that. The idea that the Center for American Progress,
You are doing exactly what you accused me of doing.
You must let him speak.
Are you able to
Brooke, you had a chance to speak. I want to hear from Glenn.
The idea that the Center for American Progress is some sort of crypto terrorist group, when in fact it is the most mainstream Democratic Party platform that hosted Benjamin Netanyahu, that completely supports Israel, just like the Democratic Party does, is derangement. And this attempt to accuse everyone of being a bigot or an anti-Semite the minute they express any criticism of Israel, I think is very toxic. But the worst thing Piers, is that ever since a month ago when this started, we have had a spate of censorship throughout the West aimed only at one side, which is the pro-Palestinian side. France banned all pro-Palestinian protests. You can have pro-Israel protests. You can go and say you think Gaza should be flattened, that all Gazans should be eradicated, like many people say. What you can't do, though, is march in opposition to the French policy. The British Home Secretary said waving a Palestinian flag may be a crime. In the U.S., they're banning pro-Palestinian groups. So we can have our differences. Obviously, this is a very inflammatory issue, but what we should not do is try and suppress healthy debate through state censorship, through banning one side from expressing themselves, or accusing everybody of being a terrorist and a Nazi because they express criticism for the Israeli government, something which many Jews like myself and many Israelis do as well.
Okay, let me go to Brooke.
No,
I want to ask Brooke. Brooke, I want to ask you a question. I'm actually.
Is this pro-Palestinian?
Okay, Brooke.
The murder and bludgeoning of a Jewish man at a pro-Hamas rally? These are not pro-Palestinian rallies. What is banned is pro-Hamas in Europe. Hamas is a designated terrorist group, and you should understand the difference between that. When you lock students in a library at Cooper's Union and bang on the door and threaten them with violence, that is not free speech. When you beat up Jews because you are projecting your hatred of a foreign government on somebody because of what they look like or what their religion is, that is bigotry. That is not free speech. And your other two guests want to cause this moral confusion.
Violence is a crime.
Don't all speak at once. I want to bring in Wajahat, please, to respond to that. Brooke, you can't just keep talking. You've made a powerful point.
Okay, so
let me go to Wajahat for a response.
This is the big difference between you and me, Brooke, and there are many differences, that I have the capacity to empathize with the suffering of the Jewish people and with Palestinians. That when I see anti-Semitism, when I see Jews who are afraid in Europe and in America, I condemn it. When I see Muslims afraid of Islamophobia, I condemn it. When I see Wadia, who was a 6-year-old boy, murdered simply because he was Palestinian American, I condemn it. When I see this man, this 69-year-old man, and they're researching it right now to see whether or not it was a hate crime, I will condemn it. The difference between me and you is that when I see dead children, when I see 4,000 Palestinian kids who are killed, it horrifies me. As a human rights lawyer, I'm amazed why this does not horrify you. When you see 4,000 kids killed, this is not shocking. For you, it's collateral damage. Right now, the IDF yesterday said, can I finish?
I'm sorry.
Can I finish? The IDF yesterday said, the IDF yesterday said, stop interrupting me. Please, IDF yesterday said that of the 10,000 people killed, only 60 were Hamas operatives. So that means that 10,000 people were killed by Israel in the past month, 4,000 children, more kids killed in the past month than in the past 3 years of all war zones, the conflict zones combined. I say it's inhumane and indecent. Do you condemn the 4,000 kids that have been killed? And as of yesterday, the IDF said only 60 people were Hamas operatives. Human rights lawyer, do you condemn it?
The pro-Israel and the pro-so-called Hamas-Palestinian movement is that we mourn the death of all civilians, where the pro-Palestinian Hamas protests after October the 7th were out on the street celebrating the death of dead Jewish civilians. That is the difference.
So
and the other difference between you is that you fail to understand the concept of cause and effect.
Can you please?
You fail to understand the concept of cause and effect.
It remains my show at the moment. All right, Brooke, that's enough for now. I want to bring Glenn in.
International law is very clear.
Brooke, you've had a chance to respond.
International law is very clear.
Brooke, you've had a chance to respond. Please respect the other panelists.
Okay,
Glenn,
yes.
I want to bring Glenn in.
I'm sorry.
Glenn,
so I just
let me ask Glenn.
Yeah.
Glenn, you're a Jewish man. When you look at what is going on here, I will be completely candid. I've said this to other guests in the last couple of weeks. I've found what happened on October the 7th to be an unbelievable scale of barbaric terrorism beyond anything I've seen in my lifetime, to be honest with you, the way it was done. And I completely understand Israel's not only right, but duty to defend itself. But is there a line here that Israel shouldn't cross in its attempt to eradicate Hamas? When you see 10,000 Palestinians killed within the space of 4 weeks, and we know it's going to get much, much higher, and so many are children, Is there a moral line that Israel shouldn't cross, or is their argument that they've got to get rid of Hamas, and in war you have collateral damage, and in this case it's the civilians who are living around Hamas, and it's awful, but that's what has to happen?
Every decent person found the Hamas massacre on October 7th reprehensible and morally unjustifiable. The question, though, is what does that mean that everything that Israel does in response becomes justifiable? And the answer is clearly not. Just like everything the United States did in response to 9/11, which was also morally horrific and unjustifiable, killed 3,000 Americans. Everything that the United States did in response wasn't morally justifiable simply by virtue of the fact that they claimed to be doing it in the name of avenging 9/11. They tortured people. There were secret camps in Guantanamo. They invaded and destroyed Iraq, a country of 26 million people, giving rise to ISIS. The laws of war were created after World War II, ironically, when the world looked at what happened in World War II, the atrocities there, and said, we know there are going to be wars, but there have to be limits. You cannot collectively punish a population. That is a war crime because certain people in that country have done bad things. You cannot just bomb people indiscriminately without regard to civilian life. And how many tens of thousands or even 100,000 Palestinians does Israel have the right to kill in the name of trying to destroy Hamas? Of course, there are humanitarian limits and laws of war that were created after World War II that the Nuremberg Tribunal said apply to every country in the future, no matter how just your cause. And I thought that was the lesson of 9/11, that just because a country is enraged and acting with a quest for violence doesn't mean that everything they do in the name of avenging that terrorist attack becomes justifiable or morally defensible.
Okay.
Much of what the United States did wasn't, and much of what Israel's doing isn't either.
Okay, Glenn, powerful words.
Piers,
Thank you for joining me.
Unfortunately,
Wajahat, we've run out of time, but I will get you back on the programme because you've been a terrific guest tonight. I've enjoyed that debate. It's been
last
fiery.
thing I just want to say is that Jews have led the protests. Jews have actually led the protests.
You said it.
Jews calling for a
you
ceasefire.
said it, and I appreciate
No,
it.
they haven't. And Glenn has no
Okay, I've got to leave it there. I'm sorry, Pat.
Hamas
Thank you very
is
much
putting
indeed to my
civilians in
panel.
harm's way,
I
specifically
appreciate you
so
all
Glenn can go on
joining me. Glenn, Brooke, Wajahat, thank you very much indeed.